we can see now the real issue here. One is we're dealing with the reality of the problems and the challenges inside. How difficult it is to actually come up with thinking, with policies, with ideas, and how to actually work through getting money for the party. And on the other hand, we've got brilliant ideas from civil society. And we always get this from the politicians. They always say, you civil society, very good to tell us what to do. But the next step, putting into action is the problem. So I think it's very interesting that we're getting very interesting, very good proposals coming out from that book, from that group of NGOs led by G25 and including some of us, on how to realize, how to make it practical, how we can actually get political parties to buy into the idea. Because I think now it's a marketing issue. We have great proposals, but the political parties are somewhat resistant in trying to accept these proposals. So we had actually met someone very prominent, and I cannot so much say who it is. But when we presented the proposals to him, the first thing he told us is, there's no way Prime Minister Najib is going to buy any of this, because all of this will not work in his power. He will need to continue the current system to keep himself in power. And the only way is to get the government out of the way in order for these reforms to be instituted. So are we really staring at that? Or are we looking at possible options of change within the current context at the moment? So I'm going to open the floor to another 3 questions. Anyone wants to pose an intelligent question, remark to either presenter? Anyone? Are you totally satisfied with their counter arguments? Surely not. Anyone? Question? Yes? One more? 2? One more? 3. Okay, let's start.
Hi, I'm Sean. With regards to political financing declaration because this is what it's supposed to be, isn't it? To declare your financing to the public and stuff like that. As we can see in with multinational corporations, they donate both ways. And so policy implications, implementations by these political parties, they also go along MNC lines in that sense. So what does declaring your, would political financing actually help in this sense? Since big companies would donate on both ends of things, on both parties. With regards to YB Sim, you mentioned public opinion is a key driving factor with regards to your policies, and I think that's the same for most politicians. You tend to wait for a public opinion to drive you to do something. What is stopping you from figuring out the best interest of the public and advocating that, and then getting the public behind you because you have a good policy instead? Okay, thank you.
So my first question is for YB Sim. So first of all, do you agree with Prof. Gomez's proposal, the three circle where he said you need to have legislative, institutional, and the intra-party reforms? And if you agree with that, why not you convince your party and also the opposition coalition to adopt this and push for it in your election manifesto or whatever?
This is to do with the first point of reform, the legislation. And you talked about, this question is for both Professor Terence and YB Sim. You talked about the review of the legislation, amendments to it and enactment of new law. How do we do this when you say that the politicians are not open to it and only a few on the opposition are probably on the same page? it seemed very hopeless. Do you have a proposal on how civil society can play a role? If the change can only come at Parliament, what can we do? It seems a bit hopeless. And YB Sim, you support this reform. What could you do to bring about this at that level?
On the first question of public opinion to drive change, why not politician lead and also these good policies? Let me say that we have been talking about this, but it's not reported. Okay, I spoke in Parliament, but none of the reporters pick up. So this issue has always been buried. But of course, I know that Professor Gomez has been trying to champion about it. But a lot of some younger politicians are talking about it. But however, it's not getting the response. I'm glad today we are talking about it because of this one MPD 2.6 billion donation thing. Okay, finally what we have to say is true, and finally, public are reacting to it. That's why I come here today and I want to state this and say clearly that we need those reforms. Okay, on this political parties internal party reform. Actually, keadilan PKR, keadilan, we know how politics is corrupting political party internally. That's why we don't want to follow the UMNO versus Nationals route. And we do our own reform. In 2007, I think it's 2011. 2010. We changed our constitution and we give every member one man, one vote. Okay? This is to absolutely kill off money politics. Because if you imagine, UMNO, they are all decided by only 2,000 members. Okay? 2,000 perwakilan in the UMNO assembly. That's why it's easy. Okay? They can just give contract or whatever to like what has been presented just now, because of all these representatives, and it's controlled by small cartel of representatives. But imagine, now, keadilan has 500,000 members. How are you going to buy those votes? It's impossible. Even if you want to buy with 10 ringgit, you need 5 million. Okay? That's impossible. Can you buy people with 10 ringgit? Alright? So these are the reforms that we do internally to eradicate money politics. Alright? That's some of the things that we have done. But so that's why you can see that MCA today, they're talking about they are widening the representative. They are talking about, because they steal the idea. They know some of the, they are trying to reform, maybe reform, I don't know the details of it, but they are following keadilan's lead in this. And keadilan is the only party in this country that gives one man, one vote in the party election. Okay, and on institutional reform, I want to say we want to have this, but can we achieve this institution under the current administration? Will the AG, okay, will the AG prosecute fairly? Okay, if let's say money politics is found, okay, without the Attorney General, without an independent police force that can independently investigate all cases of corruption, without the MACC who can independently investigate corruption cases, that will never happen. Okay? And I want to say, if opposition politician, we are all very aware. Okay? If we take 1 cent, okay, illegally, we will surely be investigated by all this authority. Alright? So the check on us, on the politician, opposition parties, actually, it's real. We cannot afford to be corrupt. If we are corrupt, we will straight go to the Sungai Buloh or Kajang jail. That's for sure. Alright? So I think institutional reform, at this point, we can see that we have to have, if we want to reform, it has to be put, let's say, the power of election commission under parliament, okay, for MACC to be accountable to parliament as well. They have to have power to prosecute. Okay, right now all the powers to prosecute are under Attorney General, who now we know how independent they are, and they're very independent, right? So right now, that are the things that we should think about, the public should debate, so that the level playing field for opposition and Barisan Nasional can be level, so that we can play on the same field and not always get the beating. You know, opposition politicians are lining up to the courts and to jail as we speak. Have you seen any of the Barisan Nasional being charged? Okay, this is a question to the public. And we can see that the public are not standing up enough. Okay, because a lot of our opposition politicians are charged in the court. They go to the court alone. They are not supported by civil society or, you know, to give them support, enough support. That's why to the Barisan Nasional, it's easy. We just whoever speak up, go to jail. Whoever do something, the public, what they call peaceful assembly, charge them in court. Me personally, I was charged in court for peaceful assembly. So these are the issue. Really, we are fighting a lone war, and I throw the challenge to the Malaysian. If you want us to change, you need to give enough support. Come forward. All right. In terms of political change, support the RM26. Who here actually donated RM26 to PKR? Have you? None. You don't know. We have been promoting. Okay. So 26 ringgit only per month for us to sustain a political parties. We're not asking 2.6 billion, 26 ringgit only. So this is a challenge for you. Hopefully everyone can know the importance of political parties. It's an institution that is fighting for better Malaysia, and you need to support this kind of institution as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the questions. Before I deal with the questions, I want to respond to some of the things that YB Sim has said, in particular about development models and think tanks and ideas that are fundamentally different. I'm not here to try and discuss, I'm not here to discuss piecemeal policies about how we're going to support students more, or how we're going to give more money for this particular purpose, or that other purpose, and so on and so forth. It's not my issue here. My issue here is this. There's a big debate going on today in the world about the point that Najib himself raised. We need a new model of development. In 2008, when we had the global financial crisis, it brought the great economies of the world, especially the US and UK, to the brink of collapse. At that time, a big debate started in those countries as well as here, because even our economy went into a recession. What should be the model of development for the country? Should the model of development be market-driven, like things like privatization, let the market be responsible for driving growth? Or should the model of development be driven by the government, by the state? A state intervening in the economy to ensure equitable growth. If you look at the debate today in the United States, Bernie Sanders is saying these things very clearly. That we cannot let the market rule the political system, we cannot let the market rule the form of economic development. It is bringing about great inequalities in the world. With the model of development which was based on one which was market-driven, what we have seen since it was introduced particularly by Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan is the growth in inequalities worldwide. Wealth and income disparities have increased worldwide because of this model. In Latin America, the neoliberal model of development that Thatcher introduced and Reagan implemented also actively, it's a bad word. Policies like privatization, deregulation. When they bailed out the banks in 2008, Nancy Pelosi clearly said this to them, to the bankers, we will now regulate very strongly. No more deregulation. Those are the debates we should be having here too. To what extent should the state intervene in the economy? After all, the Malaysian economy is controlled primarily by GLCs and GLIC. Where does the opposition stand on this point? We have not had this big debate about these big ideas as to how we should take this economy forward. Let me tell you today, Malaysia has got a very high Gini coefficient rate, one of the highest in Asia. Let me tell you today that domestic investors are reluctant to invest because they don't like the structural system in which we operate. The irony is they want more market-driven policies or development plans. The irony is they don't want greater state intervention. But the model which we have to look at very carefully post-2008 is we need to think carefully about the role of the state. The opposition refuses to have the debate because they also prefer market-driven growth. Why? And here let me quote Bernie Sanders. Because they want money from businesses to support their campaigns. And then they have to respond to them. So the same debate you're hearing in America is a debate. It's not been well articulated. Similar lines. I say to you that the opposition is more comfortable being in bed with a market-driven form of growth and in alliance with businesses. They are not comfortable with greater regulation. I also say to you that this is not good for society. That this will contribute to greater inequalities of the sort we already have to deal with, and we are not dealing with it. So that's on the developmental issue. As I said, I'm not here to discuss piecemeal things. I want the big agenda. The big agenda, what is this new model? We don't want the new model that Magic has given us. There's nothing new there. It's Mahathir's mix and match policies. What is this new model going to look like? Will it be equitable? The second point about the reforms that we are suggesting here, it's too broad. I agree, it's too broad. I didn't come here today to discuss this. There are copies of this outside available. I actually said sell it for 5 ringgit, but never mind, take it, free of charge. Take as many as you want and go and distribute it. Because I said 5 ringgit, you know why? Everything is funded by this person. This thing came up from 70 NGOs coming together because we were appalled by the things that were coming out after the 1MDB scandal. Enough is enough. Now we have to institute the reforms. We tried it once, they said no, now we do it. And this is a civil society run campaign. Ask Synthia, she's part of this campaign. 70 NGOs. We have not asked anybody for donations. We felt if the politicians are failing us, we will take the lead. The reforms are here. A detailed breakdown of all those 3 issues, it's all here. On the legislation, we have 8 fundamental issues that must go into the new political parties act. In terms of institutional reforms, it's here. This is only a condensed version. The real version is extremely thick. If you want it, write to me, I'll send it to you. Please help me disseminate it. The 4 reforms were sent to the Prime Minister. On the 1st of December, when we launched this campaign, on the 27th of December, we wrote to the Prime Minister and said, you asked for reforms, here it is, we've done the work for you. Forget your Cabinet Committee. If you want, we will talk to the Cabinet Committee. But we've done the work for you because the Cabinet Committee said they're going to take 1 to 2 years to get this done. We said we don't have time to wait 1 or 2 years. We have done it for you now, let's discuss. Of course, the Prime Minister didn't respond. As Synthia said, when we talk to people, they're saying the Prime Minister is not serious. He's not going to institute the reforms. So stop playing fast and telling us this committee is going to do it. I can tell you the committee will not institute the reforms that we need because they have made it very clear they will not make institutional reforms. If you make institutional reforms, you know what that means? Devolution of power to these institutions. Will a powerful Prime Minister devolve power when he is under siege to these institutions? Of course we know the reality, it's not going to happen. It has to be civil society led. My big disappointment is, at the time of this crisis of this monumental sort, where is the opposition? Mr. Sim has said to us, where is civil society? So I say to him now, we came in 2009 to the opposition too and said, here are the reforms, take it on and institute it. They said no to us. Now look at the consequence of them saying no to us. And today we have to stand here and say, what is civil society doing? Opposition members as well as the Barisan Nasional is not interested in listening to civil society. That is why we are in this mess that we are in today. And now with the new reforms, they are still saying no, even after 1MDB has happened. What more must happen before we act? Must we wait for Mahathir to lead us? Has it come down to that? that the opposition now is also willing to jump into bed with Mahathir to bring about the reforms. Let me say this to you, Mahathir is not interested in reforms. Until the last minute, he was not interested. Ask him, he will tell you. What he wanted is to get rid of Najib, but keep UMNO in place. I agree with Sim. Unless parties fall, there's not going to be real change. That is the history of politics in this region worldwide too. UMNO will not change until there is they have moved into the opposition. They've sent to the doghouse. That's what happened to KMT. KMT only changed after they were kicked out of power. So that's where we stand. If you want, as I said, I'm not going to go into the details now. It is here. This is a condensed version. If you want the full version, write to me, I'll give it to you. Now, the second point. Where do we go from here? We have spoken to lawyers, and the lawyers, we've told them, look, nobody's interested in supporting us. We can't turn to the politicians. What can we do? The lawyers will draw up the act. The lawyers will draw the political parties act for us. We will then take this act and we will go to the politicians and say, here it is. We have talked about putting forth a private member's bill to table it in Parliament. It's going to be very difficult, especially with the current regime, but we will do it. And I'm sure there will be politicians like YB Sim who will probably say, let's do it. I have faith in him to do it. My only question is, will his party support him? Will the Pakatan Harapan support him when we bring this law to him? The second thing that we are doing is we are going to come up with a letter where we're going to take this to all our state assemblymen and all our politicians and tell them, tell us now, yes or no, do you support it? And those who say no, we will publicize it. They said no to these reforms. So what nonsense are they talking about change, about the financing of politics and the reducing corruption? Why are they saying no? That is the question. Why are they saying no? And I can tell you now from my own experience, I know many of them will say no to us when we mount this campaign. That is why today I say to you, it has to be civil society led. We have to come to the fore. I will be more than happy to come back here and give you all a detailed account of these proposals. We spent a lot of time on this. In 2009, we spent many months on it, preparing it. It broke our hearts to see how nobody supported it. And we thought the time had come after 2008, change was in the air, now we do the changes, and even the opposition said no. We can no longer wait. The reforms are ready. If you want, we will come. And I hope you all will play a part too in mounting different organizations to come together and support this campaign. Once the opposition and the Barisan Nasional know that there's a lot of support for these kinds of campaigns, they will have to self-discipline. They will have to act. They are worried. After all, an election is coming up in 2 years. And that's the time when we really have to push this campaign for the change. So those are the two questions, the development agenda, the reforms. I agree. We have not broken it down. I will not go into the details, but they are here. The final issue, institutional reforms. Institutional reforms are the easiest thing to do. What is so hard about devolving power to the EC and to the Attorney General? Make the changes. Form a select committee in Parliament. A select committee in Parliament should decide on these matters too. We've been talking about creating more select parliamentary committees on these issues. We cannot leave it to the executive to do it. That's not hard to do. We can do these changes very quickly if there's political will to do so. There is no political will on the part of the politicians. That is the reality that we are confronted with. That is why we are in the mess that we are today. And now the situation is getting dire because the economy is going into bad straits too. As I told you, investors are not investing. Foreign direct investments are not coming in. A couple of weeks ago, Najib was in America on bended knee in California asking American investors to come. This week he was in, where was it, Saudi Arabia. That's not the kind of development we want, where we have to go on bended knee all over the world asking people to come and invest. What about nurturing our own domestic enterprises? What about the developmental model that I said earlier? Those are the issues that we're talking about. What about affirmative action? Needs-based, that's so simplistic. It's more than that. People are not investing in the economy today because of affirmative action. Read our book on affirmative action, which Synthia mentioned in her introduction. Until you remove the policy, it's not going to happen. Najib, in 2008, when the global financial crisis occurred, he went down to the ground as Prime Minister. He spoke to many people. And he asked them, what should I do? They said, remove the policy. People are worried about expropriation of their companies. They're worried about protection of property rights. And Najib announced, no more affirmative action. It was headlines, in the Star, headlines. No more affirmative action. And you know what happened? Mahathir said, no, you have to keep the policy. Perkasa said, no, you have to keep the policy. UMNO said no to Najib. He kept it. And in the 10th Malaysia Plan, he included it, only thing is he called it market-friendly affirmative action. That's an oxymoron. It doesn't work. Read the 11th Malaysia Plan. The 11th Malaysia Plan does not even mention once market-friendly affirmative action. Why? Because the debate in the 10th Malaysia Plan was, should we have the policy or not? The Prime Minister, as Prime Minister, knew we can't have it. But as UMNO President, he kept it. When it came to the 11th Malaysia Plan, he did not review it because it had not worked. We need an honest debate about this policy. It's the policy that defines the nation. It's the policy that will dictate our model of economic growth. Where is the opposition? Will they want to debate this issue? I will put it to Mr. Sim now, that the opposition will not have an open and honest debate about affirmative action in its entirety, because the contest to win the next election will be in the Malay heartland states. And this is just too sensitive a topic for them to handle openly. The irony is this. Affirmative action has been in place since 1970, more than 40 years. It was meant for poor Bumiputras. If you go to the Malay heartland states, if you look at the poorer states in this country, it's the Malay heartland states. If you look at among the poorest people, it's still Malays, Bumiputras, Sabah. Why is there still this poverty of this scale when we have affirmative action? That is the question we should be asking. So how do we reform this in a way in which we truly help people who need it? It cannot be a simple thing as, before it was race-based, now it's needs-based. We need a far deeper debate than that. Let me end here on this note, because the point is this, Mr. Sim, you have not addressed the questions that I have put to you about real change in terms of development policies. You have not addressed the question that was put to you. What about your own party and elections, internal party elections? Will there be change in electoral reforms even in the party? You have not addressed those questions.
No,
you haven't. You have.
That is not. That's the.
I'm not talking about one man, one vote.
Hold on. It's been a very fiery, long response. So can I just ask you to wrap up your response also in like 1 minute before we hand it over to Sim to also make his concluding comments?
I thought I was going to have the last word. According to the agenda. Well, never mind. Never mind. I've said enough. My last word is this. I am grateful to Mr. Sim for coming and being with us today. Honestly. Very few politicians. The students asked the students. They approached many politicians to come, including Khairi Jamaluddin. Of course, Khairi won't come. Barisan National people won't come. But even many opposition members were approached. I am deeply grateful to Mr. Sim for coming and having this debate with us today. My only request to Mr. Sim, I told him at the beginning, this evening when we met, I told him I'm going to be extremely provocative. I think I have been. But let me say this, I think Mr. Sim, my closing words to you is this. there's a lot of disillusionment with the opposition. Let's forget the Barisan Nasional. There's a lot of disillusionment with opposition too. And we need real reforms. And I feel these real reforms, you have to support civil society. Don't ask us what we are doing. I think we have been doing a lot. It's the politicians who are not responding to civil society. Let me end there. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I want to conclude by saying thank you for the organizer, Synthia, as well as Professor Gomez, for staking it up about this very important debate, which politician, I must admit, many politicians don't think is important. Not because this is not the immediate things, okay, to their mind, because they are fighting day to day, firefighting with a lot of issues. We are distracted because we are distracted with many issues, constituency work, lack of what they call constituency work, and a lot of issues going on around, and relentless campaign. Campaigning is important because if you don't win the election, you don't have any real opportunity to implement any reforms. So that is why I want to say that many of my colleagues, they are consumed with many days politics, and I totally understand because I'm part of it. I'm one of them. But there are people, okay, who seriously look at big issues within opposition parties. I must say, from all the parties, we have been talking about issues when discussing policy changes. At our very top in Keadilan, every Tuesday we have a political bureau who talk about many issues, including political, what they call policy changes, policy issues. However, there is, of course, there are a lot of, we don't have enough resources, to be frank. Okay. For example, I don't know about this book until today. Why I was not approached? You know, maybe you have approached other people, but I have absolutely no idea that this book exists. There's a miscommunication there. There are a lot of politicians, or we don't know. And this is some issue that is really close to my heart. That's why I come tonight. I know that I'll be on the I'll be grilled, I'll be put on the hot seat, but I'm ready to face it, and because I truly believe in political finance reform. And I think we have to accept the fact that there are, to many leaders, there are a lot of things needs to be changed, and this is why our country is at this state. And they are working, trying to reform, but we also have a lot of challenges. Basically, you have to fight the bureaucracy. Second, you have to institutional change. It's not that today we do a law, next day it will be implemented. There are still personalities in the institutions that resist change. Okay, the Penang State government, the Selangor government, for the first few years, they are just fighting with, you know, huge bureaucracy, which is against them. Okay, they can't even implement small, like for example in Selangor, free water. Easy, but still there are a lot of resist to change. So these are the things that we can, you know, we tell you, you say that you should be able to solve this, don't tell us. So we are fighting on this. Now, I think it is a real, that's why I want to conclude here that I agree, we need to come back to the big issues of this country. What is a real reform? And I truly believe that this political finance reform is the best interest for the opposition parties. Because no matter how much you can get corporations or big business to donate to you, you will never fight. You cannot never fight with UMNO Barisan Nasional. And the only way to go forward is state-funded political funding. And it levels the playing field. Barisan Nasional get this much, you also get this much. So this is, then we work within and be more transparent. And we have to know that political parties, eventually, we don't want 50 years down the road, Keadilan or other opposition party goes down to be the same corrupt route towards same like UMNO Barisan Nasional. And I, for myself, I will not allow Keadilan to be corrupted. That's my position. So I hope that tonight we can create debates about this, and it is best interest that all politicians pay attention to this topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you to YB Sim for being in the hot seat and still being able to smile at the end of the 2-hour session. Thank you, Professor Terence Gomez, for all that brilliance that came out, and most importantly, the important proposals that we're trying to put forward. So, can I ask now if YB Sim can be one of our first political leaders that will take charge in your party, in Parliament, in the opposition coalition, that this is something that you will actually help to champion, that you will give that commitment, and we will actually then snowball this issue to other political discussions and debate. So if that is the case, then I think we have succeeded somewhat in moving one step ahead. So thank you very much to the student group for organizing this, because as much as you may have benefited from this, all of us in this room have learned a lot from the Mahathir time right up to where we are today. So let's keep the fire going. Many